having a fantastic weekend, and we are in the last day of May, which I honestly can't believe we're headed into June and almost halfway through 2026, but here we are. And I want to talk today about finishing strong. That message has come up several times over the last week. And so I think it's really important as we head into the last month of the second quarter of the year, we really need to assess, hey, where are we with our goals? Where do we want to be? And is there any adjustments we can make to really buckle down and get where we want to be? And I think this really touches on the opt-in portion of the 7-step signature system, which we talk about that briefly every week, but I don't think we really go in depth on it. And if we don't decide and opt in, then the rest of the 7 steps don't matter. And we know that, right? We talk about that all the time. But I think it's so important, especially in the concept of finish strong, you have to continually opt in. And we talk about that too, where, hey, you're opting in at every decision that you make. But when it comes to truly opting in, that's where it's no excuses. We're not holding anything back. We're finishing strong. And this is a concept that I think scares a lot of people, because what happens when you reach your goal? Well, then you have to set a new goal. And I think people get complacent talking about, oh, well, this is what I want to achieve. This is what I'm going for. And when you reach it, now all of a sudden it's, well, you were capable of reaching that. Now what else are you capable of? And I think that scares a lot of people. And I think that stops a lot of people's progress, because they remember how uncomfortable it was to opt into this goal. So now you're telling me I've achieved this goal. Now I have to set a new goal. And you have to get uncomfortable all over again. And that's where the concept of you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable comes into play. And I don't even remember who said that, but I've heard that for years. And up until recently, I was somebody that avoided being uncomfortable as much as possible. I knew I needed to be uncomfortable somewhat, and I would push myself, but then you sink back into that comfortability. And that's that danger zone, because that's where we fall back into the wrong habits. And then we have to start all over again. And it's such a daunting task that once you've done it one time, it's hard to do it again. And they say, though, that first goal is the hardest to reach. And I think if we can understand that and recognize that if we could just get past that initial goal, we would see that all the goals we set after that are going to be so much easier, because you've developed the discipline to reach that first goal. And discipline is the best thing you can do. Discipline beats motivation every single time. And the reason is because motivation comes and goes. I am not always motivated to do what I want to do and need to do, but I'm disciplined about it. And that discipline becomes boring sometimes. It's mundane because it's doing the same thing over and over. But that's when you're truly tested, because it's not exciting to plan your meals. It's not exciting to track your meals. It's not exciting to go to the gym or whatever, right? It's not always exciting, but what is exciting is the progress that you make. And so that's why it's important to track, because then that's going to create that motivation. Those little bursts of motivation keep us going, but the discipline is really, really what you have to focus on. And so as we talk about finishing strong for this last month of Q2, which is going to take us into the last half of the year, once it's over, are you setting yourself up for success for the second half of the year? And how do you do that? You finish strong. So you take a look at your timeline. What are you going to do for the next 30 days? And you commit to it and you finish strong. You don't let off the gas when you get close to the end. And my powerlifting coach reminded me of this yesterday, right? It's the discipline part of it. And he was yelling at me because I wasn't practicing how I compete. And so I was walking onto the platform. I was deadlifting yesterday. I was walking onto the platform to do my warm-ups, just my regular warm-up set. And I walk up to the bar. He said, go get off the platform and do it again. And so I did it again. I walked back up. He said, get off the platform and do it again. And he said, let me show you what you're not doing. He said, because I know you and I know your habits. I know what you do when you deadlift heavy. You need to be practicing like that from your warm-ups. And it's the same thing. We need to be focused on the first part of reaching our goals just as much as we are on the last part, when we have to really do the heavy lifting. You got to get zoned in and laser focused. Right? And then, as I was pulling, I actually had a really good workout yesterday, but last week my deadlift workout was terrible. It was atrocious. And what he said was, listen, you gave yourself a high five before you actually finished the lift, because it came off the floor so easy. This was last week. It came off so easy. You just said, oh, I got this. And guess what? The weight said, no, ma'am, you don't, because you didn't finish strong. You let off the gas. And that's where I think a lot of times we get a little complacent, right? We make a little bit of progress and we say, okay, like I've made a little bit of progress. I can go back to whatever, or I can just not worry about it right now, instead of staying on track, right? And when we're planning our treats, that's still on plan. It's when we start to go off plan, meaning we treat ourselves a little too much, is where we get into the danger zone. But if you can plan for those treats, well, then it's part of your plan. And so that's where I want to really encourage you to finish out Q2 really strong by figuring out, okay, what are we doing for the next 30 days? All gas, no brakes for the next 30 days. What are we doing? Is it that you're going to be really disciplined about writing every single thing down? Because guess what? That sets you up for success for the rest of the year. Is it that you're going to be really diligent about listening to your personal development? Because guess what? That sets you up for a great rest of the year. Are you going to be diligent about staying on plan? Because guess what? That moves you 30 days closer to your goal. And you'll start to see, once you break through that initial resistance, because our ego gets in the way, it tries to protect us because it doesn't want us to feel the feeling of failure that we felt in the past when maybe we didn't reach a goal. And so it gets in the way And it makes us, we self-sabotage. But once you can break through that resistance, then you start thinking, well, I just don't even want anything off plan. I don't want anything that, whatever, right? I went to the movies this morning, and my friend that I was going with, she asked me, she said, I'm getting McDonald's on the way. Do you want anything? And I was just like, no, I don't. Not at all. Right? But why is that? It's because I've been laser focused and dialed in heavily on diet these last several months. And when we can get really laser focused, then the other stuff just doesn't even sound good. Or somebody's going to say, well, why don't you just skip a workout today? It's like, well, that's not an option. Not doing that. Oh, you don't have to drink your water. No big deal. Well, I will be drinking my water. Thank you. Right? This is how we create discipline. And again, discipline beats motivation any day because we're just going through the motions. Right? I was 5 minutes late leaving the other day. I was still early to where I was going, but I was 5 minutes later than I wanted to leave because I have my morning routine down in my supplements that I've added as I have competition coming up. And it was like, man, I got to do this. I got to take an extra 5 minutes to get this done. Right? I wasn't compromising, but it's because I've been so disciplined. And so when you can really get into that mindset, that's when you're able to really finish strong. Right? It's like, it doesn't matter how far you have to go. You're going to get there. It doesn't matter what you have to do to get there because your mind is so focused on finishing strong that you're going to get there. You're going to do whatever it takes. And this is why it's so important to continually track and check in with your goals throughout the month, right? You don't want to get to the last week of the month and say, oh gosh, like now I've weighed in. Now I'm looking at, now I'm looking at what I've been eating. Now I'm looking at how many workouts I've missed. You can't cram 6 hours of gym time into one day and have that be good for the entire month. That's not how it works. It's the consistency. 20 to 30 minutes every day. Right? And it's the consistency of eating right over and over and over and over. That's how changes are made. And so when we talk about finishing strong, you're constantly checking. So finish every day strong. You always have the ability to get right back on track. So let's say you don't do that great at breakfast. Okay, great. You have the ability to jump right back on board at your next meal. You have the ability to do a workout. You have the ability to get your water in. So you see, you have the ability to continuously improve yourself and get that 1% better. So let's all commit to finishing Q2 strong with these next 30 days as the focus. All right. So put it in the comments. If you're brave enough to put it in the comments, what are you focusing on for the next 30 days? Right? I'm getting laser focused. I've got a powerlifting competition coming up. So I'm going to be very diligent about my water intake and my supplements because that's going to take me to that next level. Right? My nutrition is dialed in right now. My workouts are dialed in. So I need to make sure that my supplements and my water intake are dialed in. All right. So for the next 30 days, commit to something that you are going to focus hard on and finish strong. That way you set yourself up for tremendous success for the second half of 2026. So I will see you back here next Sunday, 7 p.m. And until then, I'll see you in the comments or on text message or in your coaching sessions. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Let's finish Q2 strong. I'll see